Hey everyone, this is Chad.
This is Serena.
And welcome to Edu Life. Episode 6. Wanting to know a little bit more about inclusive education and specifically autism in the classroom? Well, let's go talk to Dr. Veronica Smith, an associate professor under educational psychology at the Faculty of Education, and her graduate student Michelle Johnston about the concept of mindfulness.
Are you worried about teacher burnout? Join me this week as I talk to Cynthia Stratlit, an education doctorate student focusing on teacher wellness for fine arts teachers.
Hey everyone, it's Lindsay here, and this week I'll be talking to Dr. Daniels here at the Education Psychology Department about her research forum discussion, and hopefully we'll learn lots more about it. So hello, Dr. Daniels.
Hi, Lindsay.
I'm here, for those of you who don't know, this is Dr. Daniels. She is an amazing prof here for education psychology, and she is participating in the research forum here at the U of A. We have kind of almost monthly discussions presenting research, and you have some amazing research regarding pre-service teachers. Now, for those of you who don't know, what is a pre-service teacher?
Great question, Lindsay. A pre-service teacher are our students right here in the Faculty of Education who are simultaneously teachers and students because they're being educated in pedagogy and things related to education, and of course their ambition is to become a professional teacher.
Oh, perfect. So essentially this research forum is directly affecting us and really important for us. Your speech is called The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, Pre-Service Teachers, Motivation and Emotions. Is that right?
You got that exactly right. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So I've spent my first 6 years here at the University of Alberta getting to know you guys as pre-service teachers and finding out a little bit about what makes you tick, in particular in relation to motivation and emotions. And what I found is that there's a whole lot of good, but there's also a little bit of bad and even a little bit of ugly. And if you'd like to have some more information on that, please come out and join me at my talk.
This week I get to talk to Cynthia Stratlit, a veteran teacher from Calgary who is now pursuing her ed doctorate. Thanks for coming, Cynthia.
You're very welcome, Chad.
Quickly, for starters, could you talk about your experiences teaching and how that led you to come back and pursue the research that you are?
Sure. I have worked for Calgary Catholic for 25 years. It's my anniversary this year. And I've worked the entire time at a big high school in Calgary, a big sort of middle-class high school with a very large fine arts department, and have directed 51 plays. So it was a lot of work with students, and eventually became head of the Department of Fine Arts in my school, and needed to make a change, and noticed through my colleagues that there's definitely a need to look at teacher wellness for fine arts teachers especially, and specifically. So it was that sort of seed in my mind that I wanted to take with me, and had the opportunity to then go on sabbatical, and thought I've got to come back to U of A, where I got my underdegree from, and pursue this further.
Cynthia, what is teacher wellness to you?
You know, teacher wellness is something that we've only been hearing about, say, for the last 6, maybe 7 years. You hear about it in professional development as maybe an option. You hear it at the teacher convention, you know, as an option. And inevitably, it's sort of been about time management, about that life-work balance. It's also been about nutrition, or it's been about meditation or yoga or exercise or something like that. And I'm not saying that that's not a part, like a really important part of teacher wellness, but my specific interest is about fine arts teacher wellness. And I think that it is that artist teacher that has a unique situation where you're expected to be an artist and a teacher, and those two things do tend to pull you in two completely different directions. Of course, what is the requirements of your school, requirements of your curriculum, the demands, the ever-increasing demands for accountability. And then there's the twist to have the sense of play and the sense of being able to daydream and to just be with that creative process and to see it out to the end and not be disrupted. And that's where I see my colleagues and myself really struggling as artist teachers to find that balance, to find that way of working, and to find a way of healing. I have a darling friend of mine. She is a world-renowned choir teacher. She's taken her choirs across the world, and she saw no other option than to go part-time because she can't do it anymore. Like, she just simply cannot take the stress of all that travel, the stress of working with over 100 students day after day, and to take them then into a competition to work at the sort of polished creative level that they need to be worked at. And so, to watch a career like that just become something very diminished and very much smaller, just broke my heart. And with my own situation, I found that I was not happy with the pieces that I was creating with my students because we were lacking that time, because that time to focus on the artist was really being pushed. And so I went and thought, well, is there any research being done on this idea? And there's nothing. Like, there's absolutely nothing being done on it. So obviously I'm just starting, it's only October, looking at the kind of research that we could do. But what's surprising me, or what is the wonder that I'm coming across with the research, is that it's going to be going back into the art that's going to save the artist teacher. It's going to be finding that place for your own artistic pursuits that might have nothing to do with the art that you're actually teaching. And that's the part that I found really profound and interesting so far.
So that last bit about the teacher creating, that's something you've just figured out in the past month since you've started?
And that I think it's about options. People need lots of options, but I think at the same time, we need a place to start. And I think that is a really good, solid place to start, is to bring those artist teachers back to what made them want to work in the schools in the fine arts in the first place. And that is that they were given the gift of an artist, and they were able to work that through. I believe everybody is creative, but the artist is the person that's then developed their life and devoted their life to following that artistic calling, and not saying no to it, but rather saying yes. But now they're saying, yes, but I have to do this, and this. And that's where that artist is getting squashed to the point of maybe not even seeing them anymore.
So really quick before we go, do you have any tips for new teachers or pre-service teachers on how to avoid that, whether they be in the fine arts, in the sciences, whatever?
I think if we are talking in the very broad and general terms about teacher wellness, it is absolutely about taking care of yourself and doing what you love, doing your passion, not letting that passion get pushed down the priority list. So if it means getting up a bit earlier to run, if that's your thing, or to belong to a band because you love to play, but you're teaching math, it's about keeping your soul protected and whole, because then you'll be bringing that to the classroom and your students are going to benefit from that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Cynthia.
Thank you, Chad.
And welcome to Edu Life, episode 6. Today we have Dr. Veronica Smith. She is an associate professor at the U of A for educational psychology for the Faculty of Education. So we're very lucky to have her today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Pleased to be here.
And today she's actually here to talk to us about inclusive education and specifically special needs and autism. So first of all, Dr. Smith, could you talk a little bit about your background as a professor and an educator, and talk to us about how it fits into inclusive education overall?
Okay. Well, I've been at the University of Alberta for just about a decade now. Wow. And prior to that, I did my PhD at the University of British Columbia. And the reason why I went to do my PhD was because I was interested in how we can support kids that have special needs a little bit better at school. I had worked for probably about 15 years in a public education system in Maple Ridge, British Columbia. Mm-hmm. And that was a really unique school district experience. I went there specifically because they had a full service neighborhood school model. They were interested in, and they were kind of the leaders in British Columbia in including all kids from their neighborhood so that they could go to their neighborhood school. And it was something I valued and I wanted to know more about. But after working in the district for about 15 years, I sort of thought, what is it that we're doing here and how could we do this a little bit better? So I was interested in engaging in some research about how we do that. And during my time at UBC, I really became interested specifically in how we support kids with autism in school.
So supporting kids with autism, that is amazing, first of all. And my question to you is, what is autism? Like for kids that are just, or students that are just entering education, like what is autism? What's it all about? Could you talk a little bit about that?
A developmental condition, and that it's recognized very early on in childhood. So most children that come to school have been identified probably before their 5th birthday. And these days we're identifying autism younger and younger. The main sort of issue that affects kids with autism, and adults actually throughout their entire lives, is their ability to engage in social interactions. So, to make friends, to even understand how to be in relationships and how to maintain friendships. So that's one thing. That's the main issue. The other thing about autism is that they have this thing called restricted and repetitive behaviors, or interests, actually. And sometimes how that plays out in the classroom is that they're more interested in their own interests than they might be, say, in the interests that the teacher is directing. But another important thing that I think teachers need to know about autism is there isn't really one size fits all. It's a spectrum disorder. So we might have someone with maybe a dash of autism, so they just are maybe a little bit odd or unusual. But we might also see someone who's really quite affected by it, and they have difficulties even initiating at all, or having any even being interested in anyone interacting with them. So
Right. So with your experience with autism, is there anything in particular that students should know when entering into their IPT or APT? And I guess they're entering into it right now, so this is great.
yeah, I know, because that kind of a profile of a student can be a bit daunting for a student. The sort of a general piece of advice that I would give teacher educators is really just to think about quality teaching practices first and foremost. So the kinds of things actually that we're talking about in the class that you're taking with me.
Which we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah. So, but thinking about things like how can I create a really emotionally supportive classroom environment for all of the students, and how can I organize this classroom so that the routines are predictable and it's easy for students to learn within a more predictable environment? And how can I think about changing up the kind of learning opportunities so that it isn't just that kids have only one thing to do, but they have some choices in how they can demonstrate their knowledge and understanding.
And could you give us a little bit, like a maybe little example of how we could accommodate these type of students in terms of lesson planning or frameworks within the classroom?
I don't think I would go to the lesson plan particularly. I think I would encourage teachers to find out more about the individuals. Like that, as certainly as for an early teacher, someone early in their career, I think I would spend quite a bit of time really understanding that individual with autism as a person. Wow, just how you might with any other kid, because autism is sort of like a piece of them, but they have their own unique interests and ways of behaving that are specific to them as an individual. So I think that's what I would encourage early teachers to do, is spend some time understanding the individuals.
Wow, her words are so inspiring and empowering too. So I'm so touched right now. So to segue into that, could you talk a little bit about the courses you're teaching or courses that you will be teaching in the future?
So I have taught a course in autism for pre-service teachers, and in that course we really do go into depth about what are the kinds of things that exactly the kinds of things that teachers can do to support kids with autism in inclusive settings. And in fact, like one of the textbooks I use in that class is You're Going to Love This Kid, Teaching Students with Autism in Inclusive Classrooms. It's a lovely piece. And it's a book I would recommend for any teacher to have on their shelf. Actually, Paula Cluth, the author of this book, has really done a lot of work in teaching literacy for kids with autism, and it really applies to lots of children with developmental disabilities. So that class in autism is great to approach teaching kids with autism, but a lot of the strategies apply to other kids with learning needs as well.
So is this class offered right now, or what course exactly could we take for students in the future that are like, I really want to know a little more about inclusive education, autism? What should we take?
Well, there's a number of courses in special education, but I'm hoping that autism course will be taught out of the Department of Educational Psychology in the future. That'd be great. The other courses that I teach, though, are in learning and development, in the pre-service teacher ed program, and also at the graduate level. Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about those, specifically what number and what's called, what the title is, stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. Well, I teach a learning and development course. It's an online course, and it's usually for graduate students. Okay. So students that have completed their undergraduate degree and they're interested in going on for a graduate program. And I also teach a graduate program in autism as well. And that is a really exciting course. I love teaching it because I have students coming from all kinds of areas, rehabilitation medicine, ed psych, psychology. I've even had a business major in there once. Wow. And they are interested in doing research and also supporting individuals with autism in a whole range of community settings, not just schools.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Smith. It's a pleasure to have you. And you heard it, undergrads and pre-service teachers that are going into IPT or APT. Dr. Smith's words of getting to know the student, getting to know each individual student is your key to success in the classroom. So stay tuned. We're going to be then talking to Michelle Johnston, who will be talking to us about mindfulness. And now we have Michelle Johnston. She is a graduate student at the Faculty of Educational Psychology, and she's working with Dr. Veronica Smith. And first of all, could you talk a little bit about your background, and then we'll go from there.
I just started my program here at the U of A. I've been teaching junior high for just over a decade. Wow. Yeah, and I became interested in pursuing research on mindfulness education. I met Dr. Smith at a public talk. There was a teacher like an expert that I brought in that spoke on mindfulness at the ATA last year. And we got to talking, and I became interested in studying mindfulness further.
What is mindfulness? Are you guys wondering? Because I'm wondering right now too. So what is mindfulness? Do you want to talk a little bit about it and how it's incorporated into the classroom?
Sure. Mindfulness is a way of paying attention. It's a present moment way of being. So you can practice mindfulness in yoga or through
yoga. You can do yoga in classrooms.
You can, and it is done. But another way is just following the breath, or just bringing body awareness or deep relaxation. And there's been a lot of interesting studies done on mindfulness. One of the books, one of the scientists, Dr. Dan Siegel, he doesn't even use the term mindfulness, but he's a neuroscientist and he's done a lot of research. I've seen him speak at conference, and he's very inspiring. Yeah, so he uses mindsight as his term.
So could you elaborate a little bit more on mindfulness? How could we actually incorporate it other than yoga and stuff like that? Where should we get started as pre-service teachers?
I think the first step for teachers would be with the self-care piece. Okay. So learning mindfulness for themselves so that they can speak with it and bring that to their classroom and have that authenticity.
Can we incorporate it into leadership classes? I heard that you also teach leadership classes.
When I was teaching junior high, I taught leadership, and that's where I incorporated the mindfulness. Yeah, we did deep relaxation, some breath awareness, and it's just a way to bring space. It really helps kids to be less reactive and to make creative choices.
Wow, well, you heard that. Her wealth of knowledge is inspiring. So thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you next week on Edu Life, Episode 7.